Okay, we're recording.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of BLACKFRAME, the podcast. You are joined by me, Ivy Reese, and I'm joined by my co-host,
Marco Avila.
See, we're getting better at that. And we have a brand new episode with a brand new movie. What movie did we pick, Marco?
Yeah, we picked a movie.
So, as everyone knows, if you've been keeping up with our podcast, we've been trying to go through a list of worst movies. What is it?
Worst movies of all time.
Worst movies of all time. And now we're in the 1940s, right?
Yes.
And we went ahead and chose a film called No Orchid for Miss Blanchett. I can never pronounce that last name.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we'll just go with that.
Blanchett. Blandish.
Blanchett. It's not Blanchett. Blanchett's the one from the Golden Girls, right? No.
Blanche.
Oh, okay.
It's Blandish. Blandish. No Orchid for Blandish.
I'm
right.
pretty sure we got it wrong.
I think we're getting it wrong, but you can always correct us.
No Orchids.
So this film is from 1940. I want to say it was 1948, correct?
Yes.
And it's sort of like a little mobster movie. It's based on a novel. And we watched it and I didn't think it was that bad, but I mean, we'll go into that later. But it's on that list of worst movies, so I guess we could just kind of dive into our thoughts.
Yeah, this will not be super long because for a movie that's in the list of the worst movies ever, it didn't really. You couldn't tell that it was one of those. It's just to me, it was just a regular 1940s movie.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was when I was watching. I had texted you right away. I was like, "This is not a bad movie." And you're like, "No, just keep watching, and then you'll figure it out later." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, we've definitely seen much worse movies that aren't on the list.
But I don't know. So what did you think so far? Let's start with the beginning of the film. Like, what did you think about this film?
So it was fine. The movie was, again, it starts out normal. I mean, I think the first thing that threw me off, and it's because I didn't read about the movie before I started watching the movie, was that it threw me off by the name and then realizing that it's a gangster movie. For some reason, the title, I assumed it was going to be some type of romantic movie.
I thought so too.
Something more, what you would think to 1940s.
Yeah.
But then it goes straight into like people talking about how to steal jewelry and stuff, and it goes from, I thought it was going to deal with just rich people, because the first scene is, you see like all these servants, like the ladder of servants, going up to like where the very rich person is in her room, but then it just goes straight to the gangster movie. Mm-hmm. So that threw me off. And then that's where I thought it was going to be bad, because I thought maybe it was going to be like the gangsters were going to be really funny.
Yeah.
But they weren't. There were some instances.
Yeah. There were some like little comic reliefs here and there with the gangsters or the mobsters.
So let's start with talking about what the movie's based on.
So, I mean, you said you read the synopsis to the novel. We both didn't read
I did
the novel.
after, yes.
Yeah. So I didn't. I went straight into the film, and I read the synopsis of the novel afterwards, and I realized just how different the novel and the film are.
Yeah.
So, do you want to explain a little bit about the novel?
Yeah, so the novel is apparently a very famous novel, and it was apparently one of the best-selling novels, at least in England, during the war years.
Okay, I can see that.
And apparently it was just very popular, but apparently it's also very violent. It wasn't, it still is. It's almost the same overall plot, but not really as the movie. So in the book, someone wants to try to steal like these jewels from a very rich lady. Mm-hmm. They get to her, but they end up killing the boyfriend, and they end up kidnapping the woman because her family is very rich, and so they assume they can get a lot more money from her on ransom than the jewels. Blah blah blah. Things happen. A little bit of in the book, she actually gets raped and she gets thrown pretty much in a dungeon for a long time because the guy that's like watching over her gets obsessed with her. She gets a little bit of what's called that syndrome?
Isn't it like
Stockholm syndrome? Things end up happening, and the investigator finally finds them. Everyone kind of dies, including the woman.
Because she can't live without
in
him.
the book, she pretty much kills herself when the guy dies because she's become like obsessed with the guy. But yeah, it's a very dark, violent book, and somehow it was like super popular.
So the film version is more like a Disney version of the book.
The movie definitely tones it down. It's like really toned down, but it's also not as like instead of living in a dungeon, she lives in a really nice hotel room.
Yeah.
And she's there. She's not there like because of being kidnapped. She's there because she wants to. Like the guy that in the book, confines her, kidnaps her, and rapes her. He lets her go the first day, and she decides to stay. She's not really kidnapped in the movie. She's there by her own will, and they fall in love. And the dude is like a hot gangster instead of being a slow, mentally ill, violent, like horrible person as in the book. In the movie, he's a lot more. He's like a charming, handsome, rich dude that owns that owns the whole hotel and casino or something like that, whatever it is.
And kind of runs the mobster gang, right?
Yeah, but he's like a good gangster.
Yeah.
Because he cares for everyone.
I don't know. I fell in love with the guy I told you. I was like, oh, his name's Slim. And the guy's Slim Grissom, right? Something like that. And I fell in love with him because I thought he was charming. I thought he was cute. But then you told me, like, no, dude, if you read the synopsis of the book, it's very different. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. He's a lot different.
Yeah. And so, having said that, let's talk about why. Before we get to why this movie is in the list of worst movies of all time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the parts that we liked about the movie.
Oh, that's easy. I would have to say Slim, yeah. Straight up Slim. I liked that he was like that type of character that you can kind of, I don't know, he didn't even have to speak. Like the moment that he appears in the film, it's like you instantly are attracted to him. That's how I felt. Like I was instantly attracted to his character when he came out.
Well, he's a famous actor. I'm pretty sure I've seen him somewhere. He
looked familiar.
I'm pretty sure he did some other movies, and I know that for a fact, but I can't remember.
Neither can I. But he was very attractive when I met him. And yeah, like just the way he spoke.
Jack LaRue, that's his name. Yeah. Jack LaRue.
What films did he also come out on?
He was in...
He had to play like more mobster films. I could see it.
I think he did other stuff actually. I don't know. Scarface?
Really?
No, he didn't play Scarface.
He should have.
I'm in the Wikipedia.
No, like, I think, like, I could see him playing a lot of, like, villain characters. Like, he has that face to be, like, a villain in any film. You know what I mean? Like, I can't see him playing, like, a superhero. Unless it's Batman. Because Batman was kind of, like, villainous, but obviously he's not. He's a hero.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you saw the movie yesterday.
I did. It was really good.
Oh, now you say it's really good.
It was. It took me a while to watch it.
You sounded disappointed when you first told me about it. But, okay, so Jack LaRue did a lot of movies, but I don't know that a lot of these ones are famous. 42nd Street... No, I was like...
42nd
Street. I thought that was going to be the Santa Claus one. But
I know,
no,
I was like, wow.
That's not it. But he's definitely famous because I've seen his face before.
It's a face only a mother can love.
You fell in love with him so more than that.
I don't know what it was. It's just the dark, like his face, the dark tones in his voice. And then, like, of course the girl fell in love with him.
This is the first time I've seen you, like a guy that's not, like, losing hair with a goatee and a
oh my gosh.
Weird...
Let's not speak of my past. But, yes, like, I could see why this girl fell in love with him. Even though, again, yeah, very different from the novel. But in the film, she's the one that chooses to fall in love with him. And I can see why. He's charming. Okay,
so he made a movie right before No Orchids called Robin Hood of Monterey. So that sounds like something famous.
What did he play, Robin Hood?
In Monterey. I don't know, that sounds horrible. Yeah, it sounds interesting.
Like, what's his ethnicity?
I think he was, pretty sure he was English. Oh, no, he was American. So, this is the one fun fact that I liked about the movie, which does give it a little bit of, like, this is not a great movie, and it's the fact that this is a British book, and the movie itself was done in England. Mm-hmm. And most of the actors were English.
Okay,
like from England. But everyone in the movie plays an American. So everyone in the movie has this 1940s gangster.
Like, yes,
gangsters. Yeah. And I think we don't realize it now because to us that's what those people supposed to sound like.
Yeah.
Because we only hear it in cartoons. But apparently it was too much.
Wow. Okay.
Like apparently it was very for that time it was actually like too hokey. Apparently people that reviewed the movie, especially Americans, were like, these people do not know how to do American gangster accents because apparently it was bad. Apparently a lot of these English actors just had trouble actually pulling off the accent, which I think to us we don't catch it because we've only heard those accents and we just make fun of it.
Like I caught their accents a little bit. Like I could tell that some of them weren't American. Like,
some of them slip up here and there. There's one character that's a woman that definitely at one point has a couple of lines and they just came out like completely British.
Yeah.
Like it was one of the singers.
Was it the blonde that sings the opening act?
The one that sings.
Yeah.
And she has like a couple of lines and it's like, whoa, that was just
really bad.
That was just British. Like that was her regular voice. And when she sings, you can hear the British accent when she sings. And that one was weird. Like, oh, I mean, you have to, if you're singing, you have to just use your regular voice, I guess.
But even the bartender, too. The bartender, you can also tell that wasn't his accent, if that makes sense. Like, it was obviously he wasn't American, but it would slip up every now and then. Like, I noticed that with him right away. Because he was the first person I saw.
Apparently, besides the accents, the other thing people were criticizing was the actual dialogue. Because, again, we hear that dialogue nowadays and we assume that's right.
Yeah.
Because we always just make fun of how people spoke back then. But apparently, even for back then, the way they wrote the dialogue was comical. Because there were some things, there were some, like, phrases...
Yeah, there was
that these people would say.
Me.
Like, they were using, like, apparently all the stereotypical, like, little, like, phrases that they thought American gangsters said from, like, that just, it was, like, one after the other after the other. So apparently the critics actually, like, hated that. It's like, these guys aren't allowed to say, like, a full sentence without a stupid analogy somewhere.
Yeah.
Or it's mostly analogy after analogy after analogy with a weird Chicago accent.
I mean, I liked the dialogue. I don't know why, but in any film I watch, I like dialogue, and I like especially when it's catchy. Because then you know me, like, I'll start repeating it all the time.
So what the critics said was, like, I don't think the writer who wrote this realizes that gangsters in America don't really speak like this in real life, because this is supposed to be like a realistic take. And so the critics were like, these people just, it's like how we make fun of those people from back then, or how sometimes we make fun of people from, like, New York or New Jersey, really.
Well, I mean, you always criticize my accents because you say they all sound like...
we always make... You know how people usually make fun to the stereotype, like, oh, if you're Italian...
You use your hand.
You have to use your hand, and you have to say something stupid.
Mamma mia.
Yeah, apparently that's what the writers did with this dialogue.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
So again, we don't get it because we don't live in those times.
Yeah.
But apparently for those times... Even for the critics, was like, this dialogue is so stupid. Just let them say regular words. They don't have to, like, say, stupid gangster stuff. But yeah, that thing, I thought that was funny.
I mean, I have to say though, and I always bring this up in maybe any episode we do that has, like, music in it, but I really enjoyed, like, the opening numbers at the club. Like, when the
music numbers were nice.
Like, I was actually reading, like, the lyrics and stuff, and I was like, as a woman, I can relate. Yeah, you know what you want as a man. Blah blah blah. Gosh. Yeah, I was listening to it and reading the lyrics to them, but I actually liked it. Like, it was catchy.
Okay, I got a quote that, again, this is part of what people were complaining about the dialogue. One of the characters says, I never count my chickens till I've wrung their necks.
See, that's clever, though.
Yeah, but, again, he would only say stuff like this instead of just saying what he meant.
Yeah.
And so that's what people were complaining. Like, people don't actually speak like that. Who comes up with this stuff?
Me.
Like, because it's just like figures of speech.
What's the quote again?
I never count my chickens till I've wrung their necks.
Okay, now say it in a mobster accent.
I can't do that.
I can. Hold on. I never count... Wait, that's a cowboy.
That's...
Yeah, I never count my chickens till I wrung their necks. Wait, that just sounds like a cowboy. I always sound different from what I'm trying to be.
You started okay, and then you went south.
It's because I always do my mobster.
I say. It's like because there's chickens in the line, you start going like old Kentucky.
I think so. No, I
never caught my chickens.
I need to stop watching Looney Tunes.
That's damn pheasant.
But no, like, I have to say, like, the opening numbers to the music, the dialogue, I understand what you're saying, but I still liked it. I think it was still kind of clever. Like,
here's the thing, because I read that in the middle of the movie, and then I started paying attention, and I started laughing, because, every word, every line any mobster has is like not a real sentence.
Yeah.
It's like some stupid way of saying something. Like nobody actually ever says what they mean in a with regular words. It's always some phrase, some invented phrase. And it like when you realize like, oh yeah, they don't just say anything.
Yeah.
Regular, then you have to start laughing once you realize it's a pattern.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm just cheesy in like real life that I was just like, yeah, I can relate. But I mean, what else was? I mean, there was also really good. See, like when I watched the movie when it first started, when I realized that well, maybe this is not a really bad movie, was when just the camera work, just the way that the camera moved from like character to character, or like from, I don't know, an action to the character's face. Like I noticed like those kind of like camera techniques. That's why I was like, are you sure this is a bad movie? Because it's actually shot pretty well. So that's where I was wondering like why, like before I read, a little more into the film, I read that like why it was bad, but then I was like, no, it has really good camera work, it has really good acting, at least to me it did. And I'm actually really picky about acting, so you differ from me.
Unless they're cute.
Unless they're cute and they're slim and they're handsome and dark and mobster-esque, but whatever.
So by dark you mean black hair? Because he's white as snow.
No, I mean dark like personality. Like he's just really, I don't know, how could I explain it? Okay,
dangerous.
So like, yes, like Walking Dead. Okay.
like a zombie?
No. So like Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon. Like he's mysterious, but he's like, there's something about him that you just, like your ovaries explode kind of thing. That's how I felt about Slim. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know how else to express it, but yeah, like, I was like, okay, Slim's really cute. Slim's very, like, my type. I don't know.
By comparing him to the guy from Walking Dead, people are gonna get a very, very different image in their head.
Okay.
Because those comparisons make no sense.
I don't know. I think they make
because
sense
Daryl from
in
The
my
Walking
head.
Dead definitely fits you a lot more than the guy from the movie.
Well, yeah, because that's more modern. Like,
no, because of the goatee
oh gosh,
and the bad hair.
I don't know what to say to that.
Like if that dude ever wore a beanie on his head, you would just like a trucker hat, you would just like
I would go cuckoo for Cocoa
you
Puffs.
would just die.
I guess
She has a type.
I do have. No, I don't. I don't have a type.
You just say you did.
I was gonna agree, but then I rethought that statement, and I was like, no, I don't. I just like personality.
I just described it.
I love personality. That's my thing. So back to this movie. What did you like? Like, what stood out to you the most that you liked about the movie?
What I liked was pretty much all the scenes at the hotel, casino, restaurant. I'm not even sure what it was.
It was like a restaurant, like a
yeah, but there were rooms upstairs.
A hotel.
Yes, it was like a hotel restaurant kind of thing with like a band.
Yeah.
With a band. I like that. I've always liked that type of vibe, that type of place, especially from those old movies. Where you see like there's a big stage with a big band or the musical numbers, and everyone's there like really nicely dressed, having like dinner, but it's a club, like there's like a second level.
Yeah.
And it's more like private, and everyone's doing like their businesses. Like in this movie, I think that's where they do like they speak with the cops and stuff. In other movies, that's where you go to gamble.
I didn't see much gambling in that.
No, that's what I'm saying. In other movies, that's where that would happen.
Yeah.
And then they had the hotel, I guess, on top of that. But
always. But yes, go on.
All right, 3, 2, 1. I think I stopped at a good spot. They had the hotel, and I like because it really gives it that 1940s movie.
Yeah.
Vibe. Everyone's really nice. Has the fancy dresses and suits. It's really bright. It's really clean. That's where the musical numbers happen, which weren't bad.
No,
I mean, there were.
What were you gonna say?
There was one that I wasn't as fan of.
Which one? I have a feeling. I think I know which one it is.
I think it was the last song. I think it involved more of like a character development, so it wasn't just a musical number.
You know what? Yeah.
So like it just threw me off, like because I got used to just seeing the musical number,
yeah.
But it was like more like a character moment. And I was like, eh.
It looked out of place a little bit. I agree with you on that one. It just looked like they just inserted that little number. And it was like, nah, you could have just gone from that scene to the next scene without having to insert that in the middle.
But I like that. I like the musical numbers. There's a whole comedy act. That's
that one I love.
There's a whole comedy act that happens. It's like 4 or 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
And they stuck with it. I mean, there's a little bit of a scene with the characters happening at the same time.
Yeah.
But you can tell they didn't care about that. It was just to showcase the comedy act because they played the whole act, and it's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. You just laugh. You just go with it. It definitely threw me off about the fact that I was watching a gangster movie.
A little bit.
Because like, oh wait, I just want to see a show about about the comedy, about the restaurant, because it's just funny.
Yeah.
But I like that, and I like I don't know what he was. He wasn't he was like a chef, but he was also like what's the word? Like it is, I think the word is maitre d' or whatever of the whole restaurant.
I think he was
like the Italian dude.
Yeah, the one that would serve.
The one that's an actual Italian stereotype.
Yeah.
So he's like in charge of the place, but at some point they said he was the chef, which makes no sense because he seemed to be running the whole place.
He was dressed too nice to be a chef.
That's what I'm saying. Like he knew everything about the food, but he was more like the general manager.
Yeah, I saw more general manager vibes than I did chef. Because, he was wearing like the black and white suit. And
he was always the one like by the phone.
Yeah.
In case something happened. And he was a comic relief for sure. Because he's like a funny Italian dude with a heavy accent.
Yeah.
And he's always mad because... What's the guy's name you like?
Slim?
Slim always wants just a sandwich, a ham sandwich and rye. And this Italian guy just thinks it's like a crime because he has like this real Italian dish prepared already ready to go, and how dare he want just a sandwich and rye. Which sounds that part did sound very New York kind of thing, because I don't actually know anyone else in Texas anyone in Texas that likes rye.
What is rye? Like
rye bread?
Yeah, like what is that? Or maybe I've had it and I just don't know.
It definitely tastes different. The rye on the bread makes it taste a little more... I know this is wrong, but I'm going to say it. Kind of sour.
Like sourdough?
No.
Like, is rye what they give you like in the... I'm gonna totally butcher this, but...
It's part of the bread.
Oh.
It's like, I think it's like the seeds or something, and it gives it it definitely gives it a flavor.
Maybe I have had it and I just don't know.
See, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said this is more of a East Coast thing, because I don't think rye bread is that popular, at least in Texas or California.
Wheat bread here, yeah. I eat wheat bread. Honey bread.
Yes.
Any bread you find at Walmart.
Unless it's rye bread, apparently. But yeah, so that was my favorite part, which I guess means my favorite part was the parts that didn't have anything to do with the actual gangster movie.
Well, it was. That's the thing,
Because this was all comic relief or just, a musical number. It was really the parts of the movie that really gives it the 1940s vibe that I liked.
But see, you brought it up at the beginning of this podcast too. Like, you thought that it was going to be more of like a romance thing, right?
Yeah. And so that's what I liked, yes.
And it actually kind of turned, I mean, as sadistic as it was, but it kind of turned out that way. Like, I forgot I was watching a mobster movie. Like, it was more to me like it did turn into a romance. Story. Yeah, I mean, sadistically it did, but...
Well, this is a love story. It's definitely it's a love story within a mobster movie.
Yeah.
That's why it diverts so much from the novel. Because in the novel, it is most definitely not a love story.
Yeah.
The novel is just kidnaps, rapes, lots of murder, and just pretty much everyone dies at the end in the novel. Wow. Although also in this movie, most people die at the end in this movie, which is something I liked.
Does she? Okay.
Everyone dies in this movie, pretty much.
So, like, spoiler alert at the end of the film, but do you know if she dies the same way that she does in the film? Because in the film, she throws herself over
in the film, she kills herself from falling off of a window. In the book, I believe she actually just kind of dies, but right after he dies or something like that. But it's definitely not, like a Romeo. It's definitely not off a window. She kind of just dies away in the book or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But it's not off a window because at no point was she in a building like on a higher story building.
Yeah.
In the books, she's in a dungeon, without windows.
Poor girl.
Yeah, the book's dark, but again, apparently still popular.
Does people still read it? Like, is it?
Yeah, because apparently it was such a big deal back then. It's still a popular thing to read now for people that study that stuff and for people that like crime novels.
Yeah,
because it's like a classic. So, that's how you can tell I don't know much about classic novels.
I kind of do. Like, I read mostly, like, maybe horror-themed classic novels. You should know that.
Yeah, this is just mobster crime.
I like mobster films. To read them like a novel based on it. Yeah.
Stephen King.
I love Stephen King. But to read, like, a novel based on, like, mobster... Like, it has to be more like a biography rather than, like, I guess a fictional thing.
Although they made a reboot of them. Well, it's not a reboot. They just in the 90s they made the movie again.
Really?
Like on the book, based on the book again.
Yeah.
And that one was closer to the actual book, but you didn't get the same type of complaints because it was the 90s, and I guess it was more like a B movie. So
is it the same title or is it a different title?
They changed it. They changed it a little bit. But it's a lot closer to the book, and so you see a lot more of the horror. It's definitely more darker. It's, worse movie. Not that it's not a bad movie, but because it actually is...
It fits its time.
It actually is about what the book's about. It's like, kids aren't allowed to watch that movie. It's, rated R.
Calm down. I don't know. A lot of kids nowadays watch rated R
films
anyway.
This is in the 90s, so even though it's like rated R, we would have seen it at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. The violence in this movie, it's there, but it has nothing to do with what we grew up watching.
Yeah.
But for back then, apparently it was a lot. And so with that, let's segue into why this movie is considered one of the worst movies of all time. Which is really not, but...
I know, I was about to say, I was like, but it's not.
So the reason why it's in the list is because when it came out in the 40s in England, it was considered ultra violent.
Right.
And very sexual. Which, again, the sexual part I don't understand because it's not that overtly sexual. Like, there's like, the assumption.
No,
like,
there's
they imply that she either was going to be raped at the beginning or she was raped, but it's not very implicit.
But I see it with the men, the way that the men treat the women. And that's why I think it was
like the men are forceful and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's nothing overtly sexual, or there's nothing that's like, oh yeah, that's for viewers. And I was like, oh yeah, that would have been a lot to handle. I mean, especially again from what we see nowadays, even on regular TV, it had nothing on this movie. Like, this is just, it's like only slightly implied.
Yeah.
That there's some type of sexual violence. And it really only happens at the beginning.
Okay.
Even when the other mobsters are having like relations with the other girls, even those aren't violent. Even those just look like they're like a married couple having a little fight.
Yeah, they show like the aftermath.
The most violent that thing that happens with the other couples is when the guy drags the girl to like the shower.
The bath, yeah, I remember. And
opens the water. And like that's screaming. That's the most violent thing you see.
It wasn't violent. It was more annoying.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's the most quote unquote violent thing you see. Really.
Yeah.
Everything else is like super. It's just kind of implied, but it only happens a couple of times.
Okay.
The violence I get a little more because like 5 people die in the first half of the movie, and then everyone else pretty much dies at the end of the movie. But it's not like it's gory.
No.
It's not like it's like you just see the smoke come out of the guns and then you just see people falling. You don't see blood or anything. Remember we saw that movie with the brains, that horror movie?
Oh, yeah.
With the brains. That was 10 times more gory, remember? Like you actually saw splatter. They would smoosh the brains and there would be...
And it was around the same time.
Yeah, and that one definitely got the same blowback because of all the blood. There's no blood in this movie. But again, apparently it was enough. And I think it has to do with the fact that everyone knew what the book was about. Maybe they didn't even watch the movie. They just assumed it was... Maybe they just thought it was going to be the same as the book. Because again, it was a very popular book.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why everyone was like, oh my God. Nobody should ever watch this because we know what's going to happen. It's gross. You can't put that on TV, just on my book. So that I can read it.
But I mean, that makes sense as far as like the violence and the, like what you're saying, like it already had like, I guess like a red mark on it that it was going to be not suitable or not something people should watch.
Yeah, it's like you can read about this, but to actually put it on camera
and watch it.
Oh my God.
Scandalous.
Although, it definitely is one of those. Because we still have books like that where...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we can read about it, but the idea of putting it on camera is like, ooh, I don't know.
Well, it's like,
it's a little risky.
Yeah.
We're still, to this day, we're a lot more comfortable with horrible stuff just on book. Just as in the written form than we would be putting it on camera.
Yeah, because Stephen King's It is actually worse. And then
there's a sex scene, right?
There's like an orgy.
Yep.
Killing babies. Like, it's just worse in the book. I'm actually reading it a second time right now.
Ugh.
I know. I'm barely like halfway through.
Reading.
I love to read. But yeah, like, it's worse in the book than when you actually watch the films. And so I can kind of see that. Like, they downplay in films.
And that's why sometimes the movies aren't scary.
It would be if they would really.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why sometimes the movies themselves aren't as scary as the books. Because you take so much out.
True. But, I mean, I don't know. This kind of makes me question, though, that list. Like, I really question it.
So, again, the reason why it's on the list is because the way they made the list is they just went with if there were a lot of mentions of this movie as the worst movie, if it made enough lists out there, and they put it in here.
Okay.
So back when the movie came out, so many critics and people gave it a bad review and called it, quote unquote, the worst movie of all time. Mm-hmm. That it just made the list because there were just so many people from back then that hated the idea of this book being a movie.
Okay.
That they just called it the worst movie. So that's how stuff gets into the list. If enough people mentioned it as the worst movie of all time, it made the list. So enough critics from that back then put it in their list of worst movies of all time that it made the list. But it's really not bad. It's just critics from the time being way too... I
think they hyped it more than
like,
it was.
Yeah, it was because, we've definitely seen movies that were from the 20s and 30s that were a lot more violent, definitely a lot more there was the sexual violence was definitely a lot more overt than this movie. And yet those movies didn't make it. Mm-hmm. So it really was just a lot of reviewers and critics just writing that word. It's the worst movie of all time that brought it to us. Which is why this episode won't be too long because
it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's just the critics' fault.
Yeah, you damn critics. No, that's what I'm saying. It made me question the whole list in that sense because it was to me a really good film. But yeah, you make sense. Like a lot of people's word can affect where this film would lie. And unfortunately, it comes out on the worst.
Yeah, because you had wanted to watch another movie that's supposed to be one of the worst films, which is The Big
Noise.
The Big Noise.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't on our list. And so I tried to figure out why that wasn't on our list, but this was.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, The Big Noise was only on one list. One person put it in one book in the 1970s as one of the worst movies ever.
Oh, okay.
But that's it. That's the only time that movie was ever
mentioned
as the worst movie of all times. Whereas this movie was mentioned repeatedly.
Oh, okay.
By critics of the time as the worst movie of all time. So it just kind of... It's not fair, but that's why it made it.
Life isn't fair.
Yep. But it's an okay movie. For a 1940s movie, it's actually good.
Yeah, and like I said, I enjoyed it. I understood the plot.
Yeah.
I understood where it was going from the beginning to the middle to the end. Like, it had a storyline to follow.
Yeah, and we wouldn't... nowadays, we definitely wouldn't put so much comic relief. We probably wouldn't have musical numbers.
No, it would be like action packed. It would probably, I can imagine
No,
it now.
it would be like a thriller.
You think so?
Yeah, because it's super violent. Because again,
action.
The novel is super violent.
Or suspense, right? Like
thriller suspense. Because suspenseful thriller or something like. Because the novel is just dark and it's just about like the psychology of it.
Okay, I can see that.
So it would be more of a thriller, but it definitely, you can tell it's definitely a thing of its time. Because apparently the thing is they wanted to make, even though the novel is British and it was done mainly by British people, I guess the producers and director wanted this movie to be an American movie. So they changed everything to make it fit American gangsters.
Okay.
So I would like to see this made with British people with just regular British accents.
That would be interesting to watch.
And see what a 1940s movie in Britain was.
Yeah.
Because I guess they just liked gangster American movies. So like, we're going to take this novel and make it an American gangster movie. Which it definitely fits. And it's a good movie for that time. Mm-hmm. That's why my favorite parts were the musical numbers and the stereotypical manager.
Yeah.
With the ham and rye.
I'm telling you, it gave me like Goodfellas vibes. Even though
Goodfellas? Oh my God.
Yeah, it did. I love Goodfellas.
Have you seen Goodfellas?
Yes, it's one of my favorite movies. It's good.
This is a happy movie. Goodfellas is Goodfellas.
Well, not according to the novel. It was not happy.
Yeah, but the movie itself is just kind of happy. See, this is the weird part. We see it and we think of it as a happy movie, even though everyone literally dies.
Everyone's dead. It's like a Disney movie.
Like, back in the day, this was like a super violent movie. How have things changed that we think it's just a happy 1940s movie?
I know, right? With a little happy ending. She dies at the end.
Spoiler. Dies at the end.
No, yeah. But what do you think? Okay, let's go to our infamous ratings. Do we really believe it's one of the worst films? And we've already said it ourselves, it's not. But let's go. Rate it good, bad, so bad that it's good.
I'm going to say good.
I'm going to say good as well.
In other words, today's episode was not worth it.
It was not worth it, but you should check it out.
But the next one will be.
Yes, I'm excited for the next one.
Next episode, stay tuned. We will be talking about, drum roll. Okay, that didn't work out.
I know.
Glenn and Glenda. Glenn or Glenda.
Glenn or Glenda.
And it's
from one of... Okay, I love Ed Wood. And I'm actually really excited because I love to talk about his films. I know he's noticed as the worst director, but he's really genius in some ways.
I'm pretty sure Ed Wood made the list multiple times.
Oh, no, he has. That's probably why his film is on there. That's probably...
No, this movie deserves the list.
Yeah, I mean, it does, but it had some good qualities. But you have to tune in the next episode to watch.
Stay tuned for next time because we actually know what we're talking about for next time.
But yeah, Marco, you want to sign out this time since you hate the way I sign out?
Well, whoever's been sending these, no orchids for Miss Blandish.